Ciao a tutti, hi everybody, I am Penciltree and today I am here to talk about a subject that touches not only me personally but all artists in general, being devalued. When we were children, we all dream about our future jobs. Some of us wanted to be teachers, some wanted to be doctors, veterinarians, hairdressers, biologists, dentists, and so on. But there is a job in particular that is just as cool, though horribly misunderstood: the artist. And there is no wonder why this job, in all of its sectors, is so misjudged. I can't even number the amount of people that have asked me, "What are you studying right now?" when I was still at the academy. And when I answered, "I am studying art, I want to be a comic artist," most of those people were bedazzled, like they never thought you'd actually had to study in a school to become an artist. Well, I guess some of us have to learn by ourselves, but it's only because art schools are very expensive and most parents would refuse to pay for such a waste of time. I wasn't the case, luckily, but many of us had to face this discussion with their parents, and it was hard to make them understand that our passions were not a waste of time. And things didn't become any easier to explain when I started to study animation. It went like, "I am studying animation." "Oh, so you want to work in summer camps?" "No, it's not that kind of... It's called cinema of animation." "Oh, so you are studying to be an actress?" It was hopeless. It's hard to believe, but many struggle to think that people working on this kind of things is actually, well, working. In their head is more like an hobby. And believe me, it is hard to live relying on this job only, and this is sad. Today, I want to tell you about the several things I went through in my artist career from the beginning till nowadays. Let's begin with me being a middle school student. It was 2005 and I had to choose in which high school I wanted to go. In Italy, it works like this. There is elementary school, middle school, and high school. Once you are done with middle school, you choose in which high school you want to go, depending on the career you want to fulfill. And I really wanted to go to the artistic high school because they taught animation and how to do comics there. Though when I said it to my family, they all pushed me to the graphic school instead. "It's basically the same thing," they said. "You get to draw anyway." But they had no idea what I wanted. I didn't want just to draw. I wanted to create stories. I wanted to bring my characters to life. Though the graphic school had a pro, and it was an actual degree which was valid for agencies to hire you, something the artistic high school didn't offer. So I went to the graphic school. The things I learned there were interesting and useful in some aspects, related to what I really wanted to do, but it wasn't the same. Anyway, I stuck with my dream of becoming a comic artist, only to have all the teachers telling me that it was a waste of talent. Yes, talent! I know they probably only wanted me to achieve the best and become an art director in advertising industry due to my creativity in terms of advertisement, but that simply wasn't what I wanted. When I told them, one of them got furious at me. He told me that I wouldn't have gone anyway by sketching silly puppets. Defining my OCs, characters on which I had spent countless years working on both their stories and designs, silly puppets. It just broke my heart in two. Nobody was noticing the world I was creating, that I was using all of my passion to put together. I just wanted others to tell me I was doing good for once, that if I worked hard enough, I could have become whatever I wanted. But the world doesn't work like this. If it doesn't make money, it's useless. Therefore, you're immature if you still like cartoons. You're childish if you still like to draw or read comics. To most people, they are just mediums to entertain kids and nothing more. Well, despite what my teacher had told me, I held on to my dream tightly, and after high school I went straight to Rome and started my studies at the International School of Comics. It was a dream. A dream! Everything was perfect. The teachers, the students, the lessons. And it became even more perfect when I took the cartoonist course, cause realism has never been my thing. That's what I wanted to do. Finally! Though even there I saw many of my teachers being sad or cynical because nobody wanted to actually pay them for their job, or rather they got paid but never enough to live only on that. And frankly, graphic designers are somehow in the same position, so I could have studied at the artistic high school at this point, but what was done was done. Once I got out from comic school, I decided to study animation, so I moved to Florence and went to the Nemo Academy, which was founded by Don Bluth in order to give young animators a chance to shine. Isn't it sweet from him? He will always be one of my main inspirations. Anyway, I chose to continue my studies with animation because I wanted to become more versatile, which I did. Thanks to animation school, I can now draw in any art style there is, and even though being an animator was never my main dream, it was a very nice experience. I have learned lots of interesting things and meet people working for Disney like Sandro Cleuto and other inspirations of mine. However, during that period, my cousin told me that a friend of hers was in need of an artist to create mobile games. This guy had a small activity where they created apps for smartphones and had decided to reach more people by making games. Sure, why not? That was neat. I contacted this guy, though I was terribly naive at that time and I had never worked for anything else more complicated than simple commissions online. The guy obviously didn't want to pay me at first, as he said this game he had in his mind was awfully simple. And simple it was. I had worked on the buttons you had to press on the menu, the backgrounds, the character and the logo. He wanted to pay me with credits only, but in the end he gave me 20 euros for all of that, just as a sign of friendship. I felt like my time had no value to him, or anybody else who had questioned my prices on the web while asking for a commission. Never complain about the artist's prices. If you can't afford it, go to a friend who can do it for free, or search for a cheaper artist. A couple of months later, that guy came back and asked me if I was interested in making another game, which I started, but it was never finished due to problems of money. I drew lots of concepts and also a few backgrounds, but at the end I was never paid for that. He insisted in doing everything in friendship, and I always agreed as he was always very kind to me. Eventually, I became the official drawer of his mobile games, and I had done quite a few. One of them being a bubble popping game. I swear to God, I drew everything in that game. Everything. The cover, the long level map, Candy Crush style, the logo, the levels backgrounds, the character. Now, for a normal job, people here in Italy get 1,300 euros to say the least. You wanna know how much he gave me? Just 200 euros, and I also complained. But frankly, it was my fault. I based everything drawing on my commission price list back then, which was lower in prices than what it is now. I also drew a card bubble game for him, which he offered not to pay me with money, but with something that could be useful to me, so I chose a Wacom Cintiq 13. This card battle game took from him 600 euros, since he wanted every background to be in a digital painting style, So I still had 200 euros to cover in order to reach the price of the tablet. At that point, I had took my degree at the Animation Academy. He came back to me with another game idea, which was a tower defense. This one was supposed to have animated sprites, but everything was very approximate. One thing I knew though, this was a massive project, like 3 or 5 person project at least. I told him that a project like that, with me doing everything alone, would have cost about 1,300 euros, but since I still had the debt of 200 euros, and because we were doing everything in friendship, I proposed the price of 900 euros. He disagreed. He kept telling me, "But you like doing this stuff. We are friends. I shouldn't be paying you this much for a couple of drawings you can do in 5 minutes." But at the end, he accepted. Guys, I am not kidding when I tell you that I concepted and drew everything on that tower defense game. That game took me a whole year for me to complete only half of it. That's how big of a project it was. It is really too complicated to explain. Just know that the levels were 10 and each level had its theme, which had its towers, which had its retransformation and effects. While working though, this guy kept telling me that I was too slow, that I didn't know how to work, that if he was the owner of a bigger activity, he would have already fired me long before. But I wasn't slow, honest. He expected the whole project to be ready in a couple of months, but he just kept asking me to change various things until he liked them. I had to change one tower and its evolutions 5 times before he said it was okay with the design. The thing was starting to become toxic. There was that time when I fell sick and almost had to get surgery, so I asked him half the price he owed me, since all the backgrounds, the map, and levels were done. But he went furious because when I reminded him of the price, he said he never agreed on 900 euros, which wasn't true, of course. After a highly childish discussion, he agreed on 800 euros, since that was the price he remembered, but still refused to pay me half of the work in advance. Afterwards, he also complained for how long I took to recover from my illness. But he always tried to make amends with me by hanging out like a so-called friends would do, gifting me things and at some point even trying to propose as a boyfriend to me. That person was manipulative as hell. It got to the point where I was crying tears as big as pitches while working on his game. Plus, he kept adding stuff over stuff for me to draw. There was always something new, a level to add, an object to create, old things to modify, and I was alone in this. Nobody helped me. He also tried to make me draw the logo of his studio at some point, even if it wasn't part of the game project. Eventually, I drew the line when I was at the final stage of the game, the Sprites animations. Each animated character would have had 3 evolutions, both villains and heroes, and they had to have a walk, an attack, and a death animation sequence. The thing was, there was never a specific number. He never told me, I want like 3 villains plus a boss or 2 per level, and neither he was sure of how many heroes he wanted. I thought that after 1.5 years, he has had enough time to think about how many characters he wanted in his own game while I was working on the lore. So I asked him to give me a specific number of sprites to animate, so that I could be a little more organized and finish the work earlier. Do I even need to tell you his reaction? Of course, he went bananas because I was the one who had to think about that. Well, I had thought about that, but when I proposed the amount of sprites that I thought could have been good for a level, he always replied, yeah, we'll see. You animate this for now, you animate that for now. We'll see how many later. And that, my friends, that's when I said enough. I told him what I have been through, what I have been feeling, the fact that when I asked for a contract, he always said no because we're friendos, and that I had enough of all that proximity. Either he gave me a specific number of characters for his game, or pay me more if he wants to add more stuff, since there was no contract and that was just a big commission. He tried to make me feel guilty about that, reminded me of all the gifts and favors he did to me as a friend, and all that I was saying was a nonsense. And so I fired myself, hoping him to find a more professional drawer to work with than I was. I gifted him all the work I did for his game, so that he only had to find an animator to draw the sprites. He replied that I only gifted him a waste of time and money. I replied that I have gifted him my time, which I could have spent in other million ways rather than working on his project. Then I blocked him everywhere and I never heard of him again. Thinking about it, I shouldn't have gifted him my work, but I was really drained of energy and creativity. This person gave me the longest Heartblock of my life, which lasted 2 years. I just wanted him out of my life. That experience gave me anxiety. I didn't want to repeat it, so I never accepted other opportunities as a comic artist, illustrator, or animator. I just wanted to keep on doing commissions on the web, closed in my comfort zone. Luckily though, thanks to my therapist, I am nowadays confidently working with an editor on a Western comic, and I am not alone. There is the writer, the drawer, which is me, and the colorist. The pay is non-existent though, cause he is a small editor. I will get paid only when the job will be done, and it will be only the 30%. But that's sort of okay, cause I wanted to try working for another person again, and so far there is no pressure. I know exactly how many pages I have to draw per chapter, when I have to deliver them. They had the character designs ready and an actual contract for me to sign. Now this is more like it, despite the pay being this low. My dream is to become autonomous by working for what I studied for, just like any other person who can rely on their job after studying medicine, for example. I want to give people a tiny world where they can escape and be happy even for 1 second. I guess this is every artist's dream. You have no idea how many people have come to me with a project in their mind, but run away as I told them I wanted a contract, or I wanted to be rewarded with money. Or how many others come to me asking for a commission, pretending they want to pay me, and then inventing any kind of excuses and trying to convince me in doing the job because, and I quote, they are on the edge of death, and a drawing for me would be great. The artist is a job, people. It takes time, energy, and requires skills and studies, just like any other job. Sometimes I feel like all of this was a mistake, that I shouldn't have followed my dreams, because dreams are not aidable. But then, when I read a comment from a fan telling me how much my work makes them happy, how curious they are to know more about the world I created, suddenly, everything makes sense again. Well, that was a vent. A special thanks goes to Serena Midori on DeviantArt, which bought 2 of my adoptable griffin for $30 despite their price being of $3 only. Thank you, darling. It is thanks to understanding and generous people like you that I can pay something as important as my therapy by myself. Links for following her are in the descriptions down below. This is it from Penciltree. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Don't forget to comment, like or dislike, and subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next video. Mwah! Bye bye!